In a world where the supernatural has its roots in our history and could explain the mysteries of our time, one girl will manifest a power so great it must remain hidden. But when someone she loves is taken, she will be forced to reveal her true power and awaken an ancient evil that will stop at nothing to take it from her. What would it mean to be born with an ancient soul? Find out in Severed Souls. Available now.
All right, everyone, welcome. It is I, the double whose door is always open. Gandalf without the gray or the white because I'm all black. Jordy LaForge, captain of this enterprise. And Professor Flex Savior of the Flexmen. I am Left Eye Ego, guys. All right, I am joined by a wonderful comic book writer that I met at Houston Comic Con back in June of this year. Could not get enough of his book, which we'll be talking about. The one and only Jay Gillespie of Dimension Comics.
Sure. For having me.
Sir, how are we doing today?
Oh, awesome. Doing excellent. Thanks for asking.
No problem. Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard enough to get the wife Shiro to want to go to Comic Cons because in her mind, she's like, hey, we're here, we're walking around, and that's all we're here to do. I kind of initially got her to want to go to the Comic Con in Houston, which I think was Comic Con Palooza, because the boys were going to be there. And so while we're waiting in line, getting the photos, we took our photos, and Shiro's walking around looking at different vendors, sees Dimension Comics, and she's like, what is this book? Points directly at it. My wife is very hard sell, not going to lie to you. She asks a lot of questions that I'm not sure most people are prepared for the answers for. But Mr. J here just gave her a brief synopsis, told her what the book was about. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. Shiro read volume 1, volume 2, and the 3 extra issues within an hour. I've never seen her read that fast. Okay. And so then, yeah, it was very impressive. And I know that she loved the genre of the book that we're going to talk about, as well as the characters and how you explained certain events in history, which, again, I love history, so it's going to be hard for me. I was like, wait, that didn't really happen, or I'm not sure that really happened that way, but the way you wove in a great story with all the time that has passed in history was chef's kiss brilliant.
Awesome.
So
thank you.
I was like, as I told him when we met, I said, hey, look, as soon as I have some time, I need to have you on the channel just to talk about this because this book looks fantastic. And fantastic it was. And that brings us to today.
Thank you.
So first things first, Mr. J, we will be talking about your book, Severed Souls. It is out now. And we'll wind up sending you guys the link later once this video is posted. But the main thing was just like, hey, I know we've got Severed Souls out now, but let's go back to the beginning. What initially got you into comics?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always had a love for it. I just remember picking up the first comics I came across and just being blown away. I loved that it was a book, but it was also being, the story was driven very much by the visuals, and it just sucked me in, and I was totally hooked, of course. So yeah, I mean, I was a kid at that time, and I collected very much through my teenage years, and I don't know, I couldn't put them down. I loved it.
Nice. Okay. Well, and at what point did it transition from, hey, I like reading these, I like collecting these, I like the story and the art, to, you know what, this is something that I want to do for myself with my own independent comic instead of, working for the big two, or unless you want to always work for the big two and this is the springboard. I'm not sure. I was just trying to figure out, where things changed for you there.
Man, yeah, it's a long evolution for that. I would still be very honored and happy to work with Marvel or DC. I think though, I always wanted to come up with my own story, and here's kind of a thing, like to get into comics as an artist. I never felt I was quite good enough, so I just kept working and I kept working at it, kept working at it until I felt like, all right, if I want to be a sequential artist or a cover artist in comics, I felt like I need to have a portfolio. I need to do something. And I wanted to do it in the form of like my own graphic novel, where it's not one of their properties like Spider-Man, but it's like my own. Like I came up with something. And I was thinking like an 80-page or maybe 100-page graphic novel that I could send to editors and say, hey, I did this myself. So that was kind of the initial goal. And then I had this idea for Separate Souls, and it was way more than just 80 or 200 pages. And I've had a lot of friends tell me, it's like, Jay doesn't do anything just a little bit. He goes big. And it happens. And you should have like maybe 1 or 2 issues that you can, succinctly tell a short story. And no, I can't do that. It just got big. And I was like, well, I definitely want to do this myself. So there's kind of some background to it a little bit. Like I've had business partners in other industries in the past, and things can get wonky. And I was like, wow, I kind of just want to do this myself. And I did talk to a few publishers, but when you look at these contracts, they say they want 100% ownership of the intellectual property.
Whoa, they do that off the top?
Oh, off the top, yeah. And it was consistent. Even like with really, really much smaller publishers, they wanted like they love what you're doing, but they want to run it fully and have 100% ownership. And
they don't like say like, hey, we'll split it 50-50 for like publishing, or say like to distribute this, we want the whole thing.
Yeah. I have not yet. I have not spoken to a publisher yet who's like, we'll work with you on it. I've heard about Image Comics that they do a lot of creator-owned. I don't know how their deals are structured, so I don't want to say it doesn't exist, but I haven't
seen it.
Right.
Wow.
Contracts I've been shown, they're like, we want 100%. So I'm not doing that. And so I just stuck to it and said, well, I'm gonna keep producing it on my own.
Wow. And so this whole thing is self-published.
Very much.
Oh my God, that is beautiful. I'm sorry, so I'm going to throw this one out here. For all the self-publishers out there, it's for you guys as well. Wow, I did not know that. I'm learning stuff already. Wow.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Wow.
Self-published, yes, sir.
Man, so did it take you like, I guess in terms like, hey, I've got the concept, I've got, the drawings, the ink, the dialogue, and now waiting for a publisher. Did doing that and having to go the self-publishing route like add any additional time to your time frame of trying to get this out or to people, or was it just all one process for you?
It's really all one process, but the additional time, I think it was really searching for what works. I'm not a social media guru, so for me, probably where I'm lacking is really pushing things from a social media perspective. I'm really the guy that I work and I write the stories and I create the art, and then switching gears to that is very hard. It's not my specialty. But as what I dedicated my time to was, how do I get this in front of people? As a self-publisher, I got to get it in front of people. So my early approaches were visiting comic book shops, and almost all of them were like, hey, this is great. Yeah, we'll put it up. And I'd come back later and see how the sales were going, and they'd sold maybe 2. And I'm like, how can I do something to help promote? What can I do? Well, I started going to Comic-Cons, and the responses at Comic-Cons are always amazing.
Okay.
And I realized if you have a product that's just sitting there online, or it's just sitting on the shelf in a comic store, it doesn't really speak to anybody. And they're just kind of looking at it and they're like, well, I came here to buy these other books, so I'm going to pass.
True.
So at a Comic-Con, it was just like you explained at the beginning, like when your wife came by, she was like, well, tell me about this. And I'm more than happy to. So when I can engage someone and talk to them, usually always they'll say, wow, this is awesome. And I'll take the whole series. And so
I
it
that's
became
good.
my avenue. That's my avenue. That's where I
Okay.
reach people. And so my time sink, if that's your question, is besides making the books, it's going to conventions, and I have a blast doing it. So I don't mind the extra time that it takes. Um, but yeah, that's probably in self-publishing. That's the big dedication of time is getting in front of
I
people and trying to be heard above the noise. You know what I mean?
Fair. I didn't mean to try to interrupt you, but I was going to say one of the things that really stuck out was the fact that not only was everything branded for Dimension Comics, the bag that you put the comics in had Dimension Comics on it too. I'm not sure if you were ever on the fence about keeping up on doing that or not. Keep doing that because that was awesome. I was like, this man was prepared for us. I know you don't do it to, make all the money in the world, but there's a financial component behind it.
Oh yeah.
And, I kind of work in sales more or less. And so, you will always assume the sale.
Yeah.
It's your job not to mess it up. And I was like, this man was prepared from jump. I have the book. Here's my card. Here's the bag with my branding on it. So if anyone asks, where's Dimension Comics? Oh, that guy Jay right over there. He has some bomb ass books. So that was some awesome marketing. I will not lie.
Thank you.
No,
I have a background in that, so I mean, one of the
cool.
things about making these books that I thought about, like, what is stopping me? There's nothing stopping me. I know how to do this. So, dude, get off your butt. Just draw the pages, and the rest you got it. So,
It
yeah,
was
I actually got the registered trademark for Dimension,
really.
and I couldn't believe it when that happened. That's one of those moments where you run outside and you're running down the street, yeah, and what is wrong with this guy? But yeah, it was actually it took 4 years. There were
to
other
get the trademark.
yeah to
Wow.
get it registered. Now I could apply for a trademark. That's no problem, but to get it registered, it took 4 years, and there were other companies up for it. One of them was actually Lego. They have a product called Lego Dimensions, and what it comes down to is different categories. So
Okay.
you can reserve toys and you can reserve t-shirts and retail type stuff, and there's a section devoted just to comic books. So for some reason,
Really?
Lego reserved all these different categories, but then they also took comic books. And I'm like, why would they don't make comics, why would they do that? But nevertheless, they were ahead of me, and after about 2 years, it just dropped off. Like Lego never did anything with it. So there was an expiration on them acting on their end to take it to the
Okay.
next level, and they didn't. And so then I was up and next in line, but still they didn't want to give it to me, and we had to like legally do some things.
Really?
Finally it went through. So yeah, I mean, it's just been how can I market it? And I've got the marketing background. I know print backwards and forwards as far as print design and print production. So I can do these things. So let's do it. And so
Wow.
when you see everything prepared, it's kind of an evolution because it wasn't called Dimension Comics at first. So things had to evolve, but little by little we got there. And,
That is an amazing. I didn't even know some almost had to be a legal fight just to get the name. That wow.
yeah, Severed
Ah,
Souls
dude.
was easy. Severed Souls was registered within I don't know. Well, I'd say about a year. It's not a super fast process, but that's about as fast as it can go.
Dude,
But
I'm gonna have to have you.
you can't trademark comics. You have to go for dimension, and that term was not easy to get registered. But it was just
Yeah.
one category, and their big holdup was on a retail comic book store in North Carolina called the Comic Dimension, and
Okay.
he had already trademarked it. But our argument was essentially, they're a store that sells comic books. We are a comic book publisher. We're very different, and they
Yeah,
accepted that, and we got it. So it was awesome.
dude, I might have to bring you back on getting on copywriting and trademarking
Absolutely, happy to do it.
your own stuff. I
I
was
learned a
looking
lot.
into it and I was like, it looks like it's a lot, and I was like, I know if I sit down and actually commit to it, it's not going to be that hard, but I'm still slightly apprehensive about going through the process. But it sounds like it's very necessary just from what you described.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
I
we can answer a lot of questions about that.
Dude, I'm definitely going to reach out to you and bring it back for that.
Sure.
But yeah, so I mean, in terms of Severed Souls, I was absolutely floored, man. I think I'm not as fast a reader as my wife is, but it took me maybe 2.5 hours to read both trades and the extra 3 issues, just because there was so much going on, and it was so heavily. It was great. Um, so I will say this. How would you describe your comic book to other people,
Yeah.
and how did you come up with this story and your characters?
I'll take the second part of your question first.
That's fair. Go ahead.
So I felt like I couldn't. I had ideas for what I thought of different characters, but the pinnacle of it was what explains their supernatural gifts. I have to find that first. Like, I
Okay.
didn't want to do something like alien blood, that was latent. That's like the Inhumans, or
Yeah.
like the X-Men, where they have like genetic something different genetically that makes them special. Like, I can't
Okay.
piggyback on what anybody has done before. So actually, it was thinking for a long time about the story, but still not quite locking down, like, where does it come from? And when the idea occurred to me that, well, maybe they live multiple lives, and those past lives, like, each time they live again, they get more powerful, and that explains their gift. And be honest, at first I was like, that's crazy, and I didn't really adopt it right away. But as I thought about it more, I was like, hang on a second, wait, it just kept coming back, and I was like, if they lived in the past, then they could be the explanation for historical events or mythology or anything that happened prior. Um, and that's when the eureka moment of holy wool, holy, and everything that I wrote before, except some of the characteristics of the first few characters. Everything I wrote before was pushed aside, and I'm like, okay, wait, hold on, I got to rewrite this and how
Oh
this
wow.
because this was ballooning into something much bigger than what I had in mind. So when you start going back and tying into history, it's not simple anymore.
Mm-mm.
Um, so what I would say to people in the first part of your question, like, I talk to everyone when they approach, and to me was like, I thought was very important, when you have something, a really big idea, like, how are you going to put it into about 10 seconds or 12 seconds to tell somebody, um, so that they are hooked and want to hear more, and it is very
Right.
hard to do. So I usually always say, it's a story about individuals with supernatural gifts that are explained by the age of their soul, and the older their soul, the more powerful their gifts. It also means that they lived many times before in the past in different parts of the world, and are the explanation for historical mysteries, mythology, or folklore. And many of them knew each other in the past, and are rediscovering each other in the modern day. And I'm always, I always feel just, I don't know, so grateful. Like, when I tell somebody about that, and they're real skeptical, and they're almost about to walk away, and then they're like, what? And then they kind of look back at you like, wait a minute, what? And, like, that's totally new. And I'm like, thank you. Like, yes, it is something that's original, and I'm just stoked about it. So yeah, and from there I can tell them all kinds of scenarios, how vampires are explained, how Egypt, the Aztec, ancient China, like, it ties in. The sarcophagus lid for Pakal. I just, you mentioned you were a big fan of history. Well, me too. And so researching these things and coming up with the idea was just nothing but just so much fun for me to do. And researching what this, there's a lot of what is that Ancient Aliens where they say the
Oh yeah,
sarcophagus is showing Pakal he's in a spaceship taking off, and I'm like,
yeah.
well, it doesn't have to be so wild. Like, what is the lid really saying? And it's the world tree, and he's ascending the world tree out into different branches, which the branches are other worlds. And I'm like, well, there it is. That's what this is. These people with their multiple lifetimes live again many times, and those of us, we pass on, we go to different branches of what lies beyond, and these guys, for whatever reason, they come back. And so
Okay.
this is I can work that in. So yeah, it's a probably my favorite topic, and I don't want to dominate because I can go on and on and on and keep talking, but yeah, like I say, just being able to make a succinct presentation
Mhm.
for people at a show and tell them what it's about and grab them in that moment, and then we just go from there, just talk from there.
Not gonna lie, that 12 seconds definitely worked. It hooked me. I was like, I was like, it sounds like, wait, I haven't heard that. And I do like reading Supernatural. Let's go ahead and get. And the thing is, I was thinking of buying one volume. I was gonna be like, let me get one issue from the first volume, and then I'll
Yeah,
think about getting the rest of them. I turn around, Shiro's got volume one, volume two, and all three issues. And
yeah,
I'm glad she did it because I mean, once I started reading it, I couldn't stop because I wanted to see what the next thing was gonna, excuse me, what the next reveal was going to be, or where the story was going to take me.
yeah,
And I guess it's the other thing is I see oftentimes that when writers try to place history in their story, especially with the lore, they can kind of get bogged down. And
yeah,
that's something I didn't really see with your book.
yeah.
So, how did you stay true to the story while mixing in these historical events without getting bogged down and lost in them?
It's actually a fantastic question, really, because the temptation to go deep into those backstories is very strong. There's so much. I wrote all about the flashbacks with the Egyptians and the Aztec, but so I got to know some guys over the years. I'll give a shout out to Wes Hartman because he'll hear the advice and he'll be like, "I'm the one who told you that." Like he was saying, "Don't get bogged down on those past histories." So
Yeah.
he was helping me with some of that, but I kind of had the realization like this is it's serving a purpose to give you what that tie-in is, and then we need to keep this story rolling. And that's hard to do. And anybody who gets too bogged down in that, I'm gonna say, well, I totally get it, man. I probably would too. So it's hard not to do it. But there had to be a point to it, and then let's get back to why it matters and continue the story. And sometimes that felt like, God dang it, because there was so much more I wanted to look at this. It's so cool, but I have to keep it to 6 or 8 pages on a flashback and move on. I could do a 3 issue series on some of that stuff.
You did that at least 4 times where I was like, why did you take me back to the present? You knew I was gonna want one more panel, one
I
more
know, I know,
page.
I know. Me
No,
too.
I'm
And I
like,
wanted
where
to
did
do more,
people
but
go? Where did Pharaoh Menace go? Where am I? Why am I back in the present? I don't like this. Take me back. Well, I was gonna say it just shows how much of a it grabbed you when you actually went to the past. You made it count. It wasn't you just, oh, this is what they looked like, when they're Aztecs, or this is what they look like during the World Wars. Like, no, there's a reason I'm telling you this specific person at this specific time that had
yeah,
this specific thing happen to him that directly correlates with the present.
yeah,
And it's not a fluff flashback,
yeah.
which I was like,
I
you know what?
actually thought about that. I
But
didn't want to just do flashbacks just to do flashbacks.
right,
It had to play. It had to have a consequence. Like
true.
So one of the things that someone taught me years ago on writing a story, like people ask me all the time, like, well, how do you do it? And so you throw a dart like way down at the end, like here's where this, if you can't see my hand, but here's where the story ends. Now I need to weave all of the backstories to meet that point at the end. And
Okay.
so each of the flashbacks are kind of a side story or a side quest that plays back to the main storyline and helps you get to the end. And so that's what kept it on track without getting sidetracked on other things or putting a backstory in just because like I guess Beth might have been Cleopatra, so let me just throw that in there. Like no, like, if it doesn't have a real tie-in, then I'm gonna leave that out. So
I'm,
the
I'm,
the
I'm
other
not gonna lie.
pressure,
Go ahead. Go
the other
ahead.
pressure was just it's 12 issues. How in the world? This is a lot of work, and there are 28 interior pages without any ads or anything. So it's a lot of work, and I had to already think about like how much this was going to be just to get done. And so I'm like, let me tell this story and pace it so that the reader doesn't feel bogged out. So you touch on a good point.
No, I was gonna say I know that there was one of the flashbacks you seen was it. Dear God, I'm mad if I mess this up. I don't know if it was Athens or
Yeah,
Sparta. It
it
was
was
Athens.
it was the Oracle at Delphi.
Yes, the Oracle of Delphi. That was beautiful.
It's a critical part of it.
Oh, oof.
So we visit the flashback there a couple times. We need to.
Yes. I was mad. I was like, this man is just chrono hopping now. And then I was like, oh wow, I didn't even see that. That was well done. Well done. I was so mad. I was like, why is he giving me a new flashback in the second volume towards the end? And I was like, oh my God. You know what? Like you set it up. And I'm mad that once I got the payoff, I was like, I should have seen it all the way back there. But I mean, that's what great storytelling is you can tell me in like the very first issue or the second issue,
It's
and the payoff's like 10 issues away, but it's like, wow, he really did tell me back in issue 1 or 2 that was a likely outcome. Based on the lore and the foundation, it couldn't have happened any other way.
Mhm.
So I was like, you know what? That's some really good writing there too. So that was
I'm honored, man. Thank you very much.
gosh.
I just I just kind of thought like let me see how I can try to build the characters and
Yeah.
then reveal why it's important. That was really just the strategy. And there was times, man, where I thought about certain scenes like the Oracle at Delphi.
Mhm.
And when I was finally to that point, like I wrote it long ago and I was like, I'm finally now drawing what happens here at the Oracle at Delphi. And it was like
Wow.
surreal to be like, okay, finally I'm working on this part. I was waiting forever to get there.
It
And
was
I'm just waiting, like you have no idea to finally finish number 12. And
yeah.
everything else is better.
I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I'm not even gonna show y'all the clip from that because the payoff is too good to know at the beginning without reading it. But just when you get to the actual panel with the Oracle of Delphi, it's a great payoff when you read the rest of that issue. But yeah, so I know that we got to get with some nerdy talk here. I have to ask, what has been your most expensive nerdy purchase?
Ah, oh yeah. Well, I will say that for my kids, it's been everything Baby Yoda. um, so yeah, I don't know. For myself, it's really been just some classic comics, some that I loved way back in the old days. So I have a Spawn #1, and I have.
Whoa.
I'm on
Really?
a hunt right now for Spider-Man 300
Okay. Yeah.
because I had it and now it's gone. And I was going through my collection. I have
Yeah.
comics from way back in the old days, and I had Spider. I was just buying Spider-Man to buy Spider-Man, back then. And so I had 297, 298, 299, 301. Wait. Where's 300, 302, 303? Wait. And I'm going back through and it's gone. And so like roommate at some point was like 5 finger discount. So
Oh
I don't know.
boy.
I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking for that. I would like to get one of those at
Okay.
some point, and I would like to get like one of the first appearances of Wolverine because I do love.
Okay. All
Um,
right. So are you a I have the issue, it's bagged and boarded, and that's it? Or are you like I'm gonna slab it, CGC it, get it graded? Like which version of that? If you get either one of these, which guy are you gonna be?
yeah, I don't have anything CGC right now, and I'm
Okay.
kicking myself for that. See, I wasn't. I now that I have been going to Comic Cons for so many years, I'm
Hmm.
now very envious of like, okay, wait, hold on. I got a lot of stuff I need to CGC like yesterday, and I
Okay.
just haven't done it. And honestly, I'm so absorbed with this other stuff that mostly I have everything slabbed, backed, and put away very carefully. Some things I have framed, and they're just hermetically sealed in there. There's
That's cool.
nothing going to happen to them. But yeah, no, definitely, I'd love to get some items CGC. Um, but no, I'm a slab and bag and backing guy for now.
Okay. Honestly, I might do that frame and hermetically sealed too, because that sounds way cheaper than CGC right now for
You
me.
can't see like on this wall, but on the wall behind the camera, there's all my framed collection. It's up there.
Nice,
And I'm
man.
like, I better not get robbed.
We won't announce your address. All right. Man, that's all right, man, dude. You get that spawn number one, shout that out because that's a very big
I
get
have
too, man.
this right over there. And he was just at San Diego Comic Con
Oh,
signing for
oh,
some of my friends. They're all posting. Look, I got Todd McFarlane to sign. That one of my friends got Spawn number one signed. I'm like,
oh
damn, I'm
my
so sure.
god,
So,
that's a lucky bastard right there, man.
yep.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna try to next McFarlane toy that comes out that I can get. I'll probably buy two of them and try to get Todd McFarlane to sign one of them. That's
Yeah.
probably gonna be my hope.
I have
But
some
go
original
ahead.
McFarlane toys that came out. Some of the when he first started putting them out. Like I've got a few of
What
those.
do those look like? What are those like?
I would have gone to find them if I mean
No.
I have them. I have them in the box, so I don't. A lot of the
Okay.
toys that I was collecting, I kept
Mhm.
them in the box. There's some I would buy two and take one out, but yeah, and most of my display stuff is all in my living room because like I kind of made the house my man cave. So yeah,
Bro, you were here. You're luckier than I. I only got this one room, and I'm holding on for dear life.
yeah.
Anyway,
You got to take that one room out. Like no, this one's mine.
bro, I'm trying to dig my heels in so bad. She's like, but when the baby comes, I'm gonna get a trailer in the backyard and then put everything in here, out there.
There you go. I
I will try.
I totally relate, man.
I got you. So, I guess back to Severed Souls. Like, what actors or actresses did you have in mind for Severed Souls? If one day it becomes optioned and they want to make it a major motion film.
Okay. Well, yeah. Back in the day when I was developing for Beth, at the time I was watching True Blood, and Deborah Ann Wall really struck me as an inspiration for Beth. Maybe kind of mixed with something like Anna de Armas.
Oh,
But that's kind of like back in the day. And it's I guess back when I was writing it before I actually started really drawing the books. So it's hard for me to say now who would be the perfect cast for Beth. I would definitely love to be involved with that. Um, she is kind of like Ciri in The Witcher in that she's young and she's very powerful. Definitely not as athletic as Ciri when she's running the Witcher school. But yeah, as far as like for Tyria, it would be someone. with gravitas like Angelina Jolie.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, but probably younger, like 25. If you know, if Deborah Ann Wall was more like 18 and Angelina Jolie was 25, then I'd say, well, there's our cast. You know, let's roll with that. Um,
Okay.
you got Tyria would have to have the gravitas and the leadership and to be fearless and bring the sexiness all at the same time, and you know, just try to mess with me. You don't want that, and own the, but at the same time be able to switch to motherly and then back
Okay.
again, back to,
Yeah.
so
Nice. Okay.
it's got, you have to have some range.
Not gonna lie, man. I would definitely look forward to this either as a major motion picture or a TV series, just because the flashbacks alone could have been a whole season to themselves. Like
Yeah.
the Egypt and Mayan. Like, yo, I'm good right there. Start if you start me there. You'd have me the whole series as you slowly got up to the present day, which would be awesome.
Yeah,
But
there. I would love that. And there was one more thing from TV that kind of inspired me. It was
yeah,
in watching like Game of Thrones. What they would do is it's about the characters and it's about the storylines of these different houses and how they're, you know, the intrigue that's going on. Meanwhile, oh yeah, there's dragons. Oh yeah, there's witchcraft. Oh yeah, there's shapeshifters. You
mm,
know, and what it kind of made me realize was like they have all of that in there, but that's not. It's like an extra. It's not what it's really about. So I was like, okay, that's how I want to do Severed Souls. Is these characters have these abilities and they do these things. They just do them, and you're like, oh, okay, so she can teleport. It just happened, and I'm like, but that's not what the thing is really about. I'm not trying to sell people on on their supernatural gifts. It's just
okay,
part of it. And witchcraft is part of it. Psychic abilities are a part of it. Seeing other worlds through dimensions is part of it. You know, whatever. But the story and the characters are what drive it. And so
okay.
that was thanks to Game of Thrones. That was eye opening for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something that's there as an added piece, and not something you're heavily relying on to either get you out of a jam or write yourself into a corner. It helps you out,
Yeah.
but it's just like, well, hey, this is just it's there. Go with it. We're still trying to tell a story, and the story is central instead of everything else that's going on. Once, so that's actually pretty cool. I like that, man. That was a really good way of taking the story because I
Right.
don't like people that. And it's hard to like a story where they rely too much on one thing to get you through the story.
Right. They keep trying to sell the dragons again and again. And
Yeah,
it's just like, okay, yeah, but yeah, the story was kind of lacking, you know, and I didn't want it to be that, right? So
man, it did a great job with the storytelling. I'll say that, man. So, I mean, I know this is Severed Souls is series one for what you're working on. So, why don't you tell us like what's your next project that you're looking at after Severed Souls series one is complete?
yeah, well, I have a lot of ideas, and you know, if I'm able to put together a team, I would need probably a team of writers, team of artists, and of course, that's going to take some investment. But I would like to have like 4 or 5 books going. If you kind of think of maybe the Avengers, how, you know, Captain America has his book, Spider-Man has his book, etc.
Hmm.
And but they all come together in one main series. So Severed Souls would be where they all cross, and you know,
Oh,
Islam or Beth would have her book, Tyria would have her book. When you see what happens to her in issue 12, you'll be like, oh, okay, I gotta pick up Tyria's book and see what happens. I'm gonna leave it at that. And so there's, you know, other characters that the Spectre, he could have his book. And so, yeah, and I've got ideas for other characters, other evil characters that play into it.
okay.
There is, of course, the main antagonist, who is Menace, which to me, the Egyptian name Menace just played into the word menace,
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah,
like perfect for an antagonist. Well, he's still um, unresolved, and so
yeah,
he's going to be out there and a huge key to why Beth, as the Islam, who is the embodiment of the in between, like what her and others are going to need to do to go and address the problem, and what he's actually up to and what he's doing, and the explanation. Well, I don't want to say too much. So there's just so much material. There's so many more flashbacks. There's so many more explanations to characters and why they are the way they are. Um, and there's new characters. One of the characters, for example, is a ventriloquist, but where his soul from his body has been transferred into the doll, and he's actually the doll is actually alive and in control, and not the body, and the body is kind of wasting away. It looks really horrible, and
That's awesome.
it's just one of the ideas for series 2, and I want to talk about Tyria, but I can't.
Okay.
And there's another character which I want to bring into the series, and I'm wondering how in the world would I make this a succinct flashback. I don't think there's any way, so I probably have to do it as maybe a 4-part series.
Well, guys, if you go to the severedsoulsbook.com, you will actually find the link to the Patreon there, as well as the book itself. I highly recommend it. And I am anxiously and patiently trying to wait for issue number 12, which I hear is coming out, in 2024. But really refreshing, sir. I cannot wait for more of your books from the Dimension verse. So, hey guys, and I'll definitely have to have you back on, especially once issue 12 drops, or when the campaign for that begins as well.
Okay,
But
got it.
all right, but guys, thank you so much for joining us. For the man, Mr. Gillespie, and Left Eye E.G.O, guys, we are out.